Okay. What's the purpose of the cash disbursements journal? What type of transaction do we record in there? Checks. What type of transaction do we record in the purchase journal? Credit purchases. Let's move on to the third journal today, and that is the sales journal. Now, the sales journal can be one of the most complicated of the 7 journals that we deal with. The sales journal records the sales transactions. Now, if the sales transactions are very simple sales, the sales journal is the simplest journal. If all you do is sell to one category of item and it's only cash sales, what's the entry going to look like every time? Debit, bank, credit, sales, right? That's it. Every time. I mean, it's going to be a very simple entry. But the more sophisticated the sales, the more ways you allow people to pay you, the more complex this journal becomes. So let's go ahead and enter in the first journal. And you'll want to follow me close, or the first sales invoice, excuse me. Follow me closely on this one. The date of this sales invoice is August 15th. Now, I'm taking the information off the invoices shown below the journal, like we've done before. Let's move to the middle of the journal. The invoice number is 2701. The purchase by was Mary Washington. On the left-hand side, we're going to describe what it is we got. Now, you might recall a few days ago, we talked about cash on hand. Cash on hand is what? Do you recall? Money that we're going to deposit. When a business has several or multiple sales that they're going to record and then make one deposit for the whole bunch of them, we're going to put the money first into cash on hand, and then when we make the deposit, we'll show you in a few minutes how you take it out of cash on hand and put it in the bank. So anytime we get cash, it's going to be a debit to cash on hand. In this case, Mary gave us $998, so we are going to debit cash on hand $998. This will be on the left side of the journal. The left side of this journal is debits. The right side is credits. Okay, now that's what we got. That's the debit. We got $998 in the cash box right now. Now, where did it come from? Why did Mary Washington give us $998? Okay, we made a furniture sale, right? So let's go ahead. How much was the furniture sale? $940. So in the right-hand side, first column on page number 117 is furniture sales. Put $940 in that column. Now, to the left of the rings and to the right of purchase by, there's a column for sales tax. Mary Washington also gave us $58 that we're going to credit to sales tax payable. Now, does that balance? It does, doesn't it? Okay. However, whenever we sell merchandise, there's always 2 parts to the transaction, isn't there? What's the second part for? The cost of the merchandise sold. So we're going to record the cost of the merchandise, but we're going to do it in kind of a time-saving way here. We're going to apply the cost into just one column. Do you recall what the transaction, what accounts we entered, what we debited and credited for that cost of sales? Kathy?
Debited cost and credited inventory.
We debited cost and we credited inventory every time, right? Now, could we have one column for cost of sales and one column in the journal for inventory? Could we do that, one on one side, one on the other, so they balance? We could do that, couldn't we? But in order to save space and time, we've got one column for both cost of sales and inventory. And the total of that column will be credited inventory and debited to cost of sales. So that one column is self-balancing. And when we balance our journal, we're going to ignore that one column so that we balance. Okay, now you'll see that when we actually go into the next step. But we're going to just have one column for both the debit and the credit that we post in the general ledger. Now, we got to first know what the cost was. So we've included a code on the invoice. That's what we see. Someone has sat down and put a code on here, a number that shows us the cost of this item we sold. You'll see it right down below where it says living room set on the invoice. It says quantity living room set, and then below that it's got a number, 00420. Now you probably didn't notice that number because and if had you noticed it, you would have thought it's what? Inventory number, a part number. You would have ignored it, but to the accountants it's actually the cost. Oftentimes that cost is noted right on the furniture item. I have been into furniture stores, and what most people think is an inventory number is actually the cost. It's coded in. What's that?
It's on the number on the barcode.
Sometimes it's on the barcode. Sometimes it's not. It just depends. And of course, computers have helped us. Okay, I mean they used to be that it always had to have a code on it, but it doesn't anymore because sometimes the computer system has the ability to do it. Now this code, let me tell you that codes are very common in the retail industry. Why don't we just write the cost on the invoice? Save ourselves all that pain, huh? Yeah, we don't want the customer to know that because what does the customer want to pay? $5 less than the cost, right? And so we don't want them to know what that is, so we've coded it on there. The number you're looking at is 00420. This is a type of code that could be used out in industry. Now, first thing you look at, you say, oh, it's the cost. Well, it's $420, right? No. You knock off the last two zero and you read it backwards. There's the cost right there. Okay? Well, it's not as clever as some codes get. There's a lot of different codes that are used out there in industry. I'm trying to think of pharmacist. Pharmacist is a code that I've heard used in the legal drug industry. Okay, I don't know what they use in the illegal drug industry, and it probably doesn't matter. But yeah, that's right. Pharmacist. Now you'll notice I misspelled this on purpose. Usually it would have two A's in it, but we got to have an O because each each letter represents a different number. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, it's got to be 10 characters long. And so if you wanted to write the number 276, you would write AIC. Okay? After a while of working with it, you get to the point that you can do it like that. Okay? You can do it very, very quickly. And so oftentimes in the industry, another one is buy diamonds. Is that right? Buy diamonds? Yeah, jewelry uses that one a lot. Buy diamonds. Again, no two letters can be used. No one letter can be used more than once so that's the reason why we had to change it to an O instead of an A. But buy diamonds is one that I've heard of. Charleston is probably the most common one I've heard. Again, 10 characters long. Each letter represents a number. Okay? And so oftentimes you see a meaningless series of letters on the item. It oftentimes tells the cost. I've seen it in car dealerships and boat dealerships and that. So that when the sales manager is out there looking at the item, if he or she is negotiating a price, they know what the cost is without going back into the office and finding out what it is. It's just written on there. I was in one of the department stores. I won't tell you which one, but I was in the department store, one of the large department stores here in town, and I saw a code up in their furniture department. And I knew what that code was. I recognized it, and you could tell by looking at it. So, I mean, when you know those codes, you can go in and have a pretty good idea what they're paid for. Okay, so that means in this code, the living room set costs us $400. How much does the platform rocker cost us? $150. And the table lamps? $20, and that's already figured in at 2. Okay, they were $10 a piece. These were the lamps we bought in the earlier purchase order. So let's go ahead and record. Now then, the total cost then of all 3 items is how much? $570. Okay, 150 plus the 400 is 550 plus the 20 is $570. I want you to write $570 then in the furniture cost column to the right of furniture sales. Okay, let's go ahead and do the next one, the next sales invoice together. We have, date is August 19th, invoice number is 2702, and the purchase by is Jerome James. Okay, now on the left-hand side, let's look at what we got. We got 2 things. We got $500 in cash, and then the balance of $1,832 we are going to sell. He signed a contract, and we're going to sell it to the bank. Okay? So what did we get on the left-hand side of this journal? Cash on hand of $500, and what else? Very good. Contracts in transit for the balance of $1,832. Okay? So on the left-hand side of this journal, we've accounted for all $2,332. Now let's account for the right-hand side. Now, Jerome bought 3 different things. He's probably one of those kids just getting out of high school that wants everything his mom and dad had. So on the right-hand side, we sold a sofa for $800. That's the only furniture on there, so that $800 is going to go to furniture sales. Let's go ahead and record all the sales first. The refrigerator was appliance sales, so we're going to credit appliance sales $700. Carpet and padding are together, and so we're going to credit carpet sales $550. And then installation, on the far right-hand column, we have one column for delivery and installation, and that's going to be $150. Last thing we've got to account for is the sales tax, and that was $132. Now, if you were to do some math on that right-hand side, beginning with the sales tax and moving to the right, you'd see that we've accounted now for the entire $2,332 in credits, correct? Okay? So, does that entry balance right now? We've got $2,332 on debits on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, we've got all these sales adding up to $2,332. Now, once we've got that, now we have to consider the cost of that sale. Okay? The cost is in a code. So what's the cost of the sofa? $500. So put that $500 in the column for furniture costs. The appliance or refrigerator, how much did that cost? $500. So in appliance costs, put $500. And then the carpet and the padding, what was its cost? $350 will go in there at the carpet cost. $350. The installation doesn't have a cost because it was a service. Okay? Now, go ahead and complete the remaining 4 invoices. When you're done, you want to total up the columns, all the columns, including the cost columns. But remember that when you're doing this balance step, ignore the 4 cost columns. Okay? Ignore them or you won't balance, because each of those cost columns are self-balancing. The total of each of those cost columns will be credited to inventory and debited to cost of sales. Okay, now go ahead and complete that.
Record the information from the remaining invoices on pages 1.16 and 1.17 into the sales journal. Then total the columns and balance the journal. If you need help, The answers are in the appendix on pages 8.6 and 8.7.